Мы очень рады сегодня, что с нами в прямом эфире, в прямой трансляции, которая идет на наших интернет-ресурсах, на сайте Русского дома ruskhaus.de и в соцсетях Российский национальный музей музыки. We are very happy today to introduce to you on the live streaming on our website, ruskhaus.de, and our Facebook and other accounts, the Russian National Museum of Music. Наша сегодняшняя встреча пройдет на двух языках, на русском и на английском. И экскурсия будет доступна тоже на двух языках в дальнейшем на нашем канале YouTube Русского дома в Брюсселе. Our evening will be done in English and in Russian today, and the virtual visit to the National Museum of Music will be done in two languages as well on our YouTube channel shortly. И сейчас я хочу предоставить слово и познакомить вас с Екатериной Фадеевой, начальником отдела международной деятельности Российского национального музея музыки. I am happy to introduce to you and to give the floor to Mrs. Ekaterina Fadeeva, the head of Department of International Relations of the Russian National Museum of Music. Пожалуйста, Екатерина, слово вам.
Добрый вечер.
Простите, прежде чем я уйду с эфира, я хочу поблагодарить вас и музей за чудесную выставку, посвященную Сергею Рахманинову, которую мы демонстрировали в нашем доме летом этого года. И мы очень надеемся на новую выставку «Рахманинов. Известный и неизвестный», которая, насколько я знаю, собирается к нам в ноябре. Вместе с замечательным мероприятием, которое мы очень ждем и готовим. Это лекция, представление этой выставки и концерт под названием «Гнесин джаз», поскольку там приезжают еще замечательные музыканты из Москвы, из России, из одного из старейших музыкальных училищ нашей страны. And before giving you the floor, I would like to say that we are very grateful to the museum for the exhibition on Sergei Rachmaninov that was exposed in our cultural center in Brussels on this summer. And we are waiting for new exhibition with the title of Rachmaninov, Famous and Unknown, that we hope will be exposed on November. And we are waiting also for the visit of the director of the Russian National Museum of Music, Mr. Brezgalov, and Russian musicians of one of the oldest music, I can say, universities of Russia, Gnesin School, with a new concert on late November. So I say this information for those who would like to attend to this concert and to discover this exhibition. And now I give the floor to Ekaterina Fadeeva from the Russian National Museum of Music. Thank you.
Добрый вечер, Вера Георгиевна. Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья. Good evening, Вера Бунина. Good evening, dear friends. Мы очень рады принять участие сегодня в традиционном проекте Русского дома в Брюсселе «День музеев» и провести экскурсию сегодня для вас, уважаемые гости, по залам нашего замечательного Российского национального музея музыки, который называется «Сокровища музея музыки». We are very pleased to take part this evening in the traditional cycle of the Cultural Center in Brussels Museum Day and to present our excursion, Treasures of the Museum of Music, to you. Несколько слов о нашем музее. Российский национальный музей музыки был основан в 1912 году и является одним из старейших и крупнейших музыкальных музеев мира. The Russian National Museum of Music was established in 1912. and it is one of the oldest and biggest musical museums in the world. Коллекция музея насчитывает около 1 миллиона музейных предметов. In total, the collection of the museum is composed of around 1 million items. В фондах нашего музея хранятся ценные нотные и литературные авторские рукописи, редкие издания, аудиозаписи, уникальные документы, связанные с жизнью и творчеством российских и зарубежных музыкальных деятелей, таких как Чайковский, Рахманинов, Шаляпин, Прокофьев, Шостакович, Бетховен, Лист, Россини и многие-многие другие. The museum funds include precious music sheets and literary manuscripts, rare periodicals, audio recordings, unique documents connected to the life and art of such famous musicians as Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninov, Шаляпин, Прокофьев, Шостакович, Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, Rossini, and others. Фонд нашего изобразительного искусства представлен шедеврами выдающихся представителей отечественной школы, среди которых Михаил Врубель, Константин Коровин, Валентин Серов. And our art fund is presented by masterpieces of outstanding representatives of the Russian School of Art, including Врубель, Коровин, and Серов. Особого внимания в коллекции музея заслуживает государственная коллекция уникальных музыкальных инструментов, которая была основана в 1919 году. Perhaps one of the stars of our museum is the state collection of unique musical instruments, founded in 1919. Это крупнейшая в мире государственная коллекция, которая объединяет 286 инструментов, которые были созданы в период с 16 по 20 века известными итальянскими мастерами, среди которых братья Матти, Страдивари, Гварнери, Бергонци. This largest state collection of the world in the world includes 286 instruments made in the period from the 16th to the 20th century by some of the most famous Italian masters, the Amati brothers, Stradivari, Guarneri, Bergonzi. И 30 музыкальных инструментов из государственной коллекции являются высочайшими образцами мирового музыкального наследия. 30 musical instruments of the state collection are among the best examples of the world's musical heritage. Выставочные проекты музея проходят как в России, так и за рубежом. Помимо этого, наш музей ведет активную научно-исследовательскую деятельность, реставрационную деятельность. Проходят у нас концерты, просветительские мероприятия, различные интерактивные программы. Our museum organizes different exhibitions, not only in Russia, but also abroad. And our museum is engaged in scientific and research activity, organizes excursions, workshops, concerts, educational programs, interactive classes, and other. Ну, а теперь я хотела бы передать слово нашему экскурсоводу Полине Шубиной, которая расскажет о сокровищах Музея музыки. And now I would like to pass the word to our guide, Polina Shubina, that will tell you about our collection and about the treasures of our museum. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Polina. Welcome to the Russian National Museum of Music, one of the largest music museums in the world. Our museum possesses more than 1 million items, but one of the most significant pieces is our collection of musical instruments from around the world. Allow me to present it to you today. Behind me, you can see the oldest pipe organ in Russia. It was made in 1868 by German master Friedrich Ladegast. In your opinion, how many pipes are there? And while you're thinking, I will give you some more facts. Indeed, this pipe organ is considered to be a middle-sized instrument. It means that it is considerably larger than portable organs, which used to be installed in living rooms, but smaller than church organs. So, your answer? There are 890 pipes there. The pipe organ is played from an area called the console, which holds two manuals, basically two keyboards, and pedals as well. In order to play a pipe organ, you need to involve all your body parts. So if you can't stand jogging, for example, or you hate going to the gym, I would definitely recommend a pipe organ. Behind those doors, there are stops. Stops are a group of pipes that produce sound of the same tone and volume. Basically, you need to pull this lever, this stop, in order to activate only the loudest pipes or the quietest ones. Also, your organ can sound both as a flute or as a cello. It depends on what lever you are going to pull. The thing is, the pipe organ is a woodwind instrument. In order to make it sound, we need to let the air in. How to do so? Inside this organ, there are special bellows. Up there, you may notice a special lever. It's a kind of a vestige of our pipe organ, because we need to pull this lever to let the air in and to make the organ produce sounds. At this point, we proceed to our permanent exhibition hall with Russian traditional musical instruments. What instrument is usually associated with Russia? I suppose balalaika is considered to be a symbol of Russian culture. However, in written sources, it appears only in the 17th century. But the oldest instrument here is gusli, the 13th century musical instrument which was found in Novgorod the Great. This gusli is called wing-shaped because it resembles a bird's wing. And there we can notice a bigger size gusli, which is called helmet-shaped because it resembles the helmet of a warrior. From Old Russian, gusl means one string, and the word gusli stems for many strings. Gusli is quite a controversial instrument. On the one hand, it is mentioned in the Bible. On ancient icons, angels are depicted holding gusli. But on the other hand, a lot of churchmen issued official decrees to burn gusli and eradicate, as they called them, other demonic revels. Why was it happening? The answer might be found in Slavic languages, because in the Polish language, the word gusliar, as a person who plays gusli, translates as the wizard. And from the Lithuanian language, goslus means to cast spells. So you see what I'm driving at. The gusli in the minds of ancient people was connected to magic. Even in mythology, the person who plays gusli, the gusliar, was considered to be, on the one hand, just a comedian who amused people during feasts, but on the other hand, as the one who can transfer a person to another world. In the 12th century, an instrument appeared called gudok. What musical instrument does it look like? It is thought, in fact, to be the predecessor of modern violins. But unlike violins, which have 4 strings, the gudok has only 3. One string functions as a guitar one. so it can be used to play a particular melody. The other two are drone strings. They produce only one tone sound. In order to play this instrument, we need to use a bow. Notwithstanding gusli being the oldest instrument here, various household tools are rightly believed to be the most ancient musical instruments, such as the spoons. If you're bored and you have already eaten your soup, you can't help but play the spoons. In fact, professional performers recommend not only to play spoons using your palms, but also hit your legs, arms, or other body parts, for instance, your neighbor's head. Another peculiar instrument is called трещотка, or hand rattles. In fact, it used to be a wonderful way to occupy children. Children were asked to go to the field or to the garden, where they were running and scaring away birds, which wanted to eat seeds or crops. The next item is called kokoshnik. In fact, it was a professional tool used by watchmen. Watchmen used to go outside in the night and they started bashing, showing that this area is highly protected and robbers are not welcomed here. One of the most recognizable symbols of Russian is, of course, balalaika. However, the balalaika hasn't always looked like this. It used to have a circle-shaped body or even square-shaped. Its neck was considerably longer and the balalaika had only 2 strings. However, in the 19th century, an enthusiastic musician, Vasily Andreev, appeared. He decided to upgrade the balalaika. He changed its body and made it triangular-shaped, shortened the neck and added 1 more string. Nalimov, who is also called the Russian Stradivarius, assisted him, and together they created the perfect balalaika. Vasily Andreev established a circle of balalaika players, which later grew into a whole orchestra. The lead musician of this orchestra was Osipov. This balalaika used to belong him. In fact, he was taught to play the balalaika by street cleaner, and later he became the lead musician. Quite an outstanding career path. There are balalaikas of various sizes, from the smallest one to the biggest one. This one is contrabass balalaika. In fact, we can call them a family. And here we can look closer at the main principle of all musical instruments. If you want your instrument to sound lower, you need to make it bigger, and vice versa. Another popular musical instruments are accordions. In fact, they were brought to Russia in the 19th century from Austria and Germany, but Russian craftsmen spread them very quickly across the country. The city of Tula is rightfully believed to be the motherland of Russian accordions, such as the accordions called turtles. They are so small, so they can easily fit into musicians' palm. It is a common misconception that they were made for children. However, it is an orchestra accordions. The same musical principle is embodied here. The higher the sound, the smaller the instrument. Let's move on to another Russian region, Buryatia. Behind me, you can see this beautiful instrument. Can you see that its long neck is topped with horse heads? In fact, a legend credits a boy with the invention of this instrument. Once upon a time, there was a boy called Suhe. And there was also a Khan. It's an ancient ruler who couldn't stand the fact that boy lived so happily. He had this wonderful horse, he loved it, so Khan decided to spoil his existence and killed the white horse. However, the horse didn't get confused. It appeared in a boy's dream and told him to collect its remains so they would never separate again. So from my point of view, it's a bit cruel story. This instrument has two strings which are made of horsehair, and it is usually played with a bow. Another peculiar musical instrument is a shaman's tambourine. Tambourines are widely spread among northern peoples of Russia. In fact, tambourines are thought to be vehicles. It represents a deer, and the stick which hits a tambourine is like a whip, which forces this deer to run. So when a shaman goes into a trance, he imagines that he gets up on a deer and goes to another world. What is the difference between this tambourine and the one behind me? In fact, there were two types of them. One tambourines symbolized animals. The other ones were means of depicting the picture of the world. People showed what they believed in and what they watched. In fact, this tambourine is divided into three parts. The upper part is dedicated to a special god. The bottom part is for the underworld, where some beasts live. And the middle part, these triangles are in fact mountains. That is the only place which is dedicated to humans here. Right now, I'm standing in a hall with musical instruments from around the world. Behind me, a window with Armenian instruments. The symbol of Armenian culture is duduk. Duduk is a woodwind instrument made of apricot wood. Duduk is usually played in pairs. One musician performs the melody, while the other one holds a steady drone sound, only one note. Together, duduks creates a richer and more haunting sound. In fact, UNESCO proclaimed duduk and its music as a masterpiece of the intangible heritage of humanity. What instrument is usually associated with Africa? I would say different kinds of drums. However, I would draw your attention to this plain instrument called sanza. Sanza originates from Africa, and its construction symbolizes the members of African family. These metal tines in the middle represents grandparents. Next to them, father and mother, and the rest of them are African children. There must be many of them. The body of this instrument is made of wood. It symbolizes the earth. And inside, different stones and seeds are usually put. So they embody ancestors. While the performer plays a melody on sanza, he reproduces the dialogue between the ancestors and the living ones. At least that's what is believed in Africa. In this window, Azerbaijani instruments are represented. For instance, this is called kemancha. It is an instrument of Iranian origin. However, it seems to me that I can't surprise you here. We have already seen various musical instruments of the same construction. It has 3 strings, wooden body, nothing new for us. But what is the spike for? In fact, it's really hard to guess. It seems to me that we enjoy overcomplicating our lives. How we play the violin? We fixate the instrument and the bow remains flexible. While the kemancha, we do quite the opposite. We fixate the bow and spin it around the bow. Behind me, there is a very strange Kazakh instrument called kabys. You have already noticed this hole. One legend tells us a gripping story about its appearance. Once upon a time, there was a Khan who had an only son, and the son went missing because he had gone for a hunt. So Khan ordered his people to go and search for his son, but warned them, if you bring the sorrowful news of his death, you'll be executed, but in a very unusual way. I will pour down your throat the molten metal. So Khan's people set off, and very soon they found the dead body. And they started contemplating how to return to Khan and tell him everything, because nobody wanted to die. But then a very old, brave man appeared. He decided to go to Khan and report this dreadful news himself. But he did it not with words. He played a sad melody on his kabys. And then Khan realized everything. Thus, it was the instrument which brought the dreadful news. Khan ordered for the instrument to be executed. That's how these holes appeared, as if burned by molten metal. Let's have a closer look at karnay, the military instrument that was played during parades of Khans and commanders. This copper-wind instrument produces very powerful sound. Despite this fact, it is usually played during wedding ceremonies. Next, we proceed to the hall housing instruments of professional European tradition, such as woodwind, brass, keyboard, and string instruments, which are behind me. In the 16th century, there were 2 main types of string and bow instruments. They were violas and violins. What's the difference? Violas are bigger in size and they have more strings. In the 16th century, there were 2 types of violas. Viola da gamba, which from Italian literally translates as legs, and viola da braccia. Braccia means arms. So these terms describe the way and the position in which these instruments can be played. Some craftsmen made violins so tiny so they could be easily put into the pocket of a dance teacher. In Russian, they are called pochettas, from the French word la poche, which stands for the pocket. Dance teachers used to create accompaniment during rehearsals, playing on these small violins. However, the fretboards of these violins are too narrow. That's why they were prone to play out of tune. Italian masters of the 16th century brought the violin to the appearance which we know today. In the 16th century, there were two major places where violins were made. In Italian towns Brescia and Cremona. The founder of the Brescia school was Gaspara de Salo. However, he predominantly made violas, not violins. It was a pretty rough work. However, it was Gaspara de Salo who paved the way towards the perfect violin shape. Because of the plague of 1630, most masters of the Brescia school died. The most outstanding and, as it is commonly believed, unsurpassed masters in the history of violin making are the Amati family. Andrea Amati made small but expressive instruments. However, there was one problem. They were too quiet. Only his grandchild, Nicola Amati, perfected the appearance and the sound of his granddad's instrument. He made it sound stronger. And the apprentice of Nicola Amati was one of the most well-known violin makers, Antonio Stradivari. This is a unique instrument made by Antonio Stradivari in 1671. It used to belong to Queen Elizabeth of Belgium. She organized an international competition, and our Russian violinist David Oistrakh participated in it and won it. Queen's will left him this instrument as a gift. But later on, his widow donated this unique instrument to our museum. Next to the Stradivari's violin, we can see the one made by Guarneri. However, not many people are familiar with Guarneri. They have never heard of him. But his violins are thought to outstrip the ones made by Stradivari in many regards. Even virtuoso Paganini preferred Guarneri's instruments. The museum's collection of string and keyboard instruments is rich. Here you can follow their evolution from predecessors of the modern piano to the grand piano. Probably the most well-known string and keyboard instrument here is the piano. However, not many people are familiar with its predecessors. One of them is a harpsichord. There might be two manuals or one, it doesn't matter. But what matters is the way how sound is produced. Craftsmen used to attach vertical wood blocks to the end of keys, and in the upper end they inserted springy feathers. As soon as the musician pressed the key, the feather plucked the string. That's why a harpsichord is a very loud instrument, and to make it sound quieter was not an option. One of the most interesting and valuable items in our collection is the spinet made by Marco Yard in 1565. Fundamentally, a spinet is the same instrument as a harpsichord, although they were meant to be installed in the houses. That's why they were smaller in size and usually abundantly decorated. Here you can notice the portraits of Medici family. Or another spinet made by an unknown Italian master in the 16th century. It is richly inlaid with nacre, representing biblical plots. And it looks as if it was a cabinet with many drawers. I really doubt that it was convenient to play it, But beauty requires sacrifices. Unlike harpsichords, clavichords produce sound by striking brass or metal strings with small metal blades called tangents. That's why clavichords produce very quiet sounds. And now let's revise. A harpsichord is a loud instrument. Clavichord is a quiet one. We can translate these terms, quiet and loud, to Italian, and we get piano e forte. So it is an old-fashioned word for the modern piano. By the way, the first piano was presented to the public in the very end of the 17th century by Bartolomeo Cristofori. Behind me you can see the first music synthesizer. It was made by an engineer, Evgeny Murzin, who was a big fan of works and aesthetic of the Russian composer Alexander Scriabin. And he named his invention in honor of Scriabin. A stands for Alexander, N for Nikolaevich, and S for Scriabin. The N's work is based on the principle of optic sound generation and graphical sound recording. Basically, the principle is the following. There are 5 optic discs. You can imagine basic CD discs. On each, there are 144 soundtracks of pure tones are encoded. So altogether, there are 720. In fact, the distance in frequency between neighboring sounds is 1/72nd octave. So that is a threshold of detectability, the minimal interval that human ear can distinguish. The glass is covered in black mastic. Then, with the use of special tool, we literally apply strokes cutting the mastic. Then, when light comes through our cuts, it touches optic discs, and the particular combinations of sounds are activated. This machine sounds extraterrestrial. Music recorded on this musical synthesizer was later used in movies, in theater, and on TV. Various Russian composers even created soundtrack using ants. Here you can see a curious instrument called the theremin. It was invented by Leon Theremin, a Russian engineer and physicist, in 1919. And a year later it was presented to the audience. In fact, that is the first electronic musical instrument in the world. And Theremin's Russian and international tours sparked interest in electronic musical instruments. What makes this instrument so unique is the fact that the musician doesn't need to touch it while playing it. When he approaches the vertical end, the pitch rises. When he moves it away, it lowers. With the second hand, he manages the tones and the volume. The musician can change the quality of the sound to make it resemble a human voice or other musical instruments. To conclude our tour, allow me to present to you this enormously huge drum kit, which was created by the famous musician Rishat Shafi, who could manage to play it himself. Here we can see only a half of it, these 20 drums. But there is a mirror installed. It helps us understand the scale of a problem. It is a circle-like drum kit with 40 drums. it seemed that it's quite impossible to play it. However, even a special pedal mechanism was invented. You hit the pedal at one place, and it in turn hits several drums at once. This drum kit includes orchestra drums, which are quite habitual for us, and as well ethnic drums, which are called darbukas. But you don't need to hit them with the sticks, but play it with your palms. Unfortunately, this is the end of our tour. Thank you for visiting Russian National Museum of Music. Our museum exhibits more than 700 items. Unfortunately, we won't be able to show them all to you. But if you have any questions, I'll be looking forward to answering them all.
Большое спасибо, коллеги. Это была очень интересная экскурсия. Thank you so much, dear colleagues. It was a very exciting visit. Maybe some of our spectators have some questions. Пожалуйста, если у вас есть вопросы, вы можете задать сотрудникам Российского национального музея музыки. Но пока я хотела бы сказать, что здесь в Бельгии есть тоже замечательный, знаменитый музей музыкальных инструментов в центре Брюсселя. И сегодня, когда я смотрела вашу экскурсию, я думала о том, как замечательно было бы, наверное, продолжить контакты, которые, несомненно, у вас были с этим музеем, поскольку очень много, наверное, будет точек соприкосновения. You know that here in Brussels there is a wonderful museum of music instruments, and when I was looking at the virtual tour of your museum, I was thinking about maybe development of contacts you have had with this museum earlier. Thank you so much, and maybe you can say some. Ekaterina, you are with us? Yes, Ekaterina Fadilova, the head of the department.
Yes, thank you so much. Большое спасибо за ваше внимание. Мы надеемся, что вам понравилась наша экскурсия. Thank you very much for your attention. We hope that you liked our excursion and our museum. We will be glad to see you in our museum. And how just said Vera Georgievna, this year we celebrate the anniversary of great Russian composer Sergei Rachmaninov, 150th anniversary of his birth, and we have just opened and presented our exhibition Sergei Rachmaninov, I Am Russian Composer, in Russian House in Brussels last April and June, and on the 29th of November we are planning to open and present another exhibition, Sergei Rachmaninov, Known and Unknown, in the Russian House of Brussels, in Brussels, and we hope that you can come to see this exhibition and to listen to the lecture of our Director General Mikhail Брызгалов. Как уже сказала сегодня Вера Георгиевна, в этом году во всем мире отмечается 150-летие со дня рождения выдающегося русского композитора, пианиста Сергея Рахманинова. В этом году наш музей представлял выставку «Сергей Рахманинов. Я русский композитор» в Русском доме в Брюсселе. Выставка прошла с большим успехом, и в ноябре мы планируем представить вторую экспозицию, посвященную Рахманинову, которая называется «Сергей Рахманинов. Известный и неизвестный», который рассказывает о различных известных и неизвестных фактов его биографии. Надеемся, что вы сможете посетить выставку, увидеть, познакомиться с документами, звуковым и видеорядом, который будет представлен на выставке. И ждем вас в конце ноября в Русском доме в Брюсселе, где выставку планирует открыть наш генеральный директор Михаил Аркадьевич Брызгалов и рассказать о творчестве, о жизни Рахманинова и представить нашу экспозицию. Большое спасибо за внимание. Ждем вас в Москве. Если больше нет вопросов, то мы рады, что вам понравилась наша экскурсия. Thank you very much for your attention. We are looking forward to see all of you in Moscow, in our museum. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.
Большое спасибо, Екатерина. Thank you so much, Екатерина, and thank your colleagues for this exciting excursion. So, dear friends, you are always welcome on the virtual platform of Russian House in Brussels. Keep in touch with our program, and we are looking for meet you soon in Russian House in Brussels, also for our events and presentation. Thank you. Bye.